I'm the chairman, and my phone number is actually on there. And my phone number's been out all over the place for 30 years anyway, so I'm gonna get more phone calls, I think, but I'm used to getting phone calls. And then, the last thing I wanted to mention, I think one of the things that we have to work on as a council, and I'm not sure exactly how to do this, so I'll need your help. We've got to help homeschoolers, superintendents, principals, school boards, private schools to be more aware of this council. Because, see, in the beginning, that wasn't a problem. The first 10 years or so, everybody knew. But time marches on. I think that what's happened, you know, technology is advanced. Well, we're not on Facebook, and I don't know if we should be either. I'm not a very tech-oriented, or what do you call it?
You don't tweet.
I don't tweet. I don't know how any of that stuff works. But I think somehow or other, we have to be more, well, I wrote it down here someplace, more accessible online. I mean, people can come to the department webpage and they get kind of a static page, which, I mean, it's helpful. But a lot of my younger friends, you know, people in their 20s, they're on their cell phone, they're tweeting, they're looking at Facebook. But somehow or other, I think we need to make more people aware. But I think especially the districts and the school boards, that if they see a problem, you know, to bring it, like, you know, through their representative on HEAC, to bring that stuff forward. Because, you know, I have a hunch that this legislation that's proposed because of a problem in Berlin might have been avoided, you know, if the superintendent there had, you know, talked about it and had it brought forward to here. Because Ellen, you know what the superintendents are up against. You can appreciate their difficulties, and you can help explain this stuff to us, and together with the principals and the school board people, we can, you know, we could probably, I'm not saying for sure, but in the past, that's what happened. A lot of problems, we were able to tackle and solve them when they were still small. That's a lot better. So, this is, like I said, I'm not sure, I don't have any bright ideas of how to do that. Glenn?
I don't know if I have any bright ideas on how to do that, but just an observation that I think maybe there are a lot of districts, superintendents, who are not really up to date on what the laws are in regard to homeschoolers.
Yeah, that's why I think if they were more aware of the existence of this organization, if some kind of problem comes up, you know, they could contact us and solve it before it gets too big. But I think you're right, Glenn, there is definitely a lot of information about the law that doesn't necessarily filter down right away.
Could we send something down to all the SAUs?
Yeah,
And then they could disseminate to their principals and way down.
in fact, that's one of the notes I made for myself to do, is to call that association. But now that you mention it, instead of just me calling them, a letter from the council would be more appropriate. I can call, but also make sure a letter goes out. Well, we don't have specific letterhead, but I'm sure something can be arranged through the department. But
But a letterhead is always good, and then you can write in a nice letter, then you can have the
Right.
rules and regulations or whatever, and the contacts together with it.
that's easy.
piece, and I just
Yeah.
want, we do have technical advisories that
Right.
also come from the Public Information Office
Yeah,
to
Right.
a long list of people, including superintendents. Items can also be placed on that.
you know what,
Yeah.
that's something I had wanted to ask, and I forgot to write it down. I wanted to check with you, because I was looking at that list of technical advisories the other day, and they're not really sorted by category. Like, there are several that have to do with homeschooling. I didn't find them. Of course, I didn't spend half an hour looking either, but I wonder, is it possible to sort them out by, let's say, homeschooling, special ed?
I'd have to check with Lori. Lori is the person that.
Lori Lot, no,
Lori
not Lots,
Temple.
Lori, yeah,
Okay, she's the one that does the website, and I also know that they are in the process of looking into revamping the entire DOE website.
Yeah.
To make it more user-friendly.
right. Yeah,
Even for
'cause
us.
I think those technical advisories, I think it would be really useful for everybody, superintendents, homeschoolers, teachers, if these things were more easily, if they were categorized so that you could look them up more easily.
Mhm.
Okay,
Because we're
good.
finding that in-house as well.
Yep.
I mean, I have gone on our own website and hunted, and had to call her to say, okay, where is this hidden?
Yeah,
I
So
think that-
that's why we're also working on making it much more user-friendly.
I think all members of House Education would agree with you.
It's not worse than Massachusetts, just saying.
Lori also does
She's very good.
monthly key messages.
Yes.
Yeah, those are good too.
So something could be inserted in the key messages, maybe just about, HEAC contacts and so forth.
Yeah, extending
Okay,
the
we
all
can
correct
check
in a
that out.
sense. I know one thing that I do, and I know those of us that represent homeschool groups, I'm not perfect at it, but I try to do a report back to the group that I'm
Right.
representing.
yeah,
Every time we meet, I'm trying to, sort of give a summary, that this is what's happened.
yeah, what happened?
Or there's been twice that I sort of said, I'm going to give a summary at our meeting and given the date so that I'm doing it in person.
Right,
But I think that brings
yeah,
HEAC in front of more homeschoolers.
right.
Things like that. So if we
Except
all kind of did that.
The ones who don't come to meetings.
Right, well, that's why I try to do it on Facebook, because
Yeah.
our group has a pretty decent Facebook presence, and most of our members, most of them are on there. If your groups have a Facebook, that's, I think, a good way to do it.
Yeah, my group has a Facebook page we put up not long ago, and we're gonna start using it more, but, yeah,
And I do also always have the minutes up within 5 business days, and you can just share the minutes in your PDF.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. Hey, we had a HEAC meeting, here are the minutes.
all right. That's,
But I think that the problem where the information is not getting sent to the institutional stakeholders that we're here is not
Yeah.
gonna be solved by us sending out the information to our own
No.
homeschool groups. So, and we are in contact with those people in our homeschool groups regularly or frequently enough that we do get the problems that they have and try to bring them here. But if that's not happening on the other end, then we're stuck with,
yeah,
a legislative surprise that we're not really.
No, I love the idea of sending a letter
Yeah.
or putting it in a newsletter or something. I think that's a great
Yeah.
idea.
yeah, I was gonna make a phone call, but after listening to Ruth's suggestion, I think the letter is a whole lot better than just a phone call. All right,
Maybe
that's,
it's just something, when someone registers for homeschooling with the school district, you have to send them a letter and give them all the, we're looking at revamping our letter, because after being on this council, I realized, we're missing some important information here about high school credit, if you intend to
Right.
seek high school credit, what you need to do that.
Mhm.
Because we had a situation with that, but generally, once we receive that letter and send the correspondence back, we don't hear from people again.
right,
They don't use us as a resource, they don't contact us if
No.
there's a problem. I wouldn't know if there was a problem. We just don't hear from people.
But the Superintendent's Association is a good place for superintendents who are having homeschool problems to bring their grievances and then you to bring them here.
Yeah, see if I can get that on our agenda.
Yeah. The other thing, when I talk to homeschoolers, I tell them, you know, if you're planning on your student going to college, or if you want to have your student get credits, you need to check with either the district or the non-public school that you're dealing with. And you don't wait till the year before, you know, you check this out ahead of time so that you're aware of what the, you know, what the restrictions are or what the requirements are. Because a lot of times people wait till the senior year, you know, the kid's done being a junior and he's going to a senior year and the parent says, well, what about credits? It's like, wait a minute, it's kind of late for that. So, and I have seen some districts that have actually pretty decent and well-explained criteria for that. And if the parents don't like it, well then they, you know, they can ask to have this change and maybe it won't be, then they can just go elsewhere before it's too late. But people do need to get these things checked out. That's pretty much what I had for a report. Anybody have any questions on anything else that I said? Okay.
I do have a request.
Ellie, oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, and yeah, actually, we should do the Department of Education first. I was just gonna say that I know Representative Marsh has to be, and has some things to say.
Yeah, right, I talked to him
Yeah,
last night, right.
yeah, if we could go.
Oh, do you have to leave or something?
I do have an event to be at 4:30, so.
And it's
Okay.
4 o'clock now.
Okay. Ellie, you're gonna be here till the end, right?
Mhm.
You have a, do
I'm
you?
usually here till 7
Yeah.
at night.
All right.
Right,
Go ahead,
I will be brief. As many of you recall, we had an issue that was coming up over the last probably 2 years, was it, Amy? Regarding referrals of homeschoolers to DCYF. And it was determined at the May meeting, which I attended, I believe it was the May meeting, that one of the causes of this was that in the Department of Education, it was believed that the Department of Education had no jurisdiction over homeschool complaints and was immediately referring them to DCYF. George and I met with Commissioner Edelblut in June regarding this, and feel free to chime in because you were there. And Mike Donnelly attended the meeting by telephone. And we, after some discussion with him about ways of resolving this, it was determined that a policy could be changed within the department, in that the department still did have jurisdiction, specifically through the truancy laws. And since he told us that, we've been monitoring this in the New Hampshire NH Homeschooling.org comments, and have seen significantly fewer comments regarding DCYF. Now, Steph thinks that may be partially because it was summertime, and of course people aren't going to complain about homeschoolers in summer because no one expects them to be homeschooling in summertime. But we haven't seen that come back this fall either. So time will tell if this is a permanent solution or not. But I personally was satisfied by the Commissioner's resolution of the problem, and obviously it needs to continue to be monitored.
Do you know, so you said that there was a rule change, is that what you said?
No, it's a policy change.
A policy change, do you happen to have access to that, or that we
When
could
the
get
Commissioner
access to?
comes, you can ask him that question directly.
Okay.
I really don't care where he puts it or how he writes it, as long as it works. And then insofar as I'm not seeing those cases coming to my wife's website and having her complain to me about it, and why don't you do something about it, I'm perfectly happy to have that one off my plate.
So, how does it work then, or is that something that we should ask him when he gets here?
He told me that he would change the policy and that he was capable of doing that himself within his own department.
Yeah.
And I think that's an appropriate question to ask the Commissioner or his representative.
Okay, so just like, because I was just worried about, I was not worried, concerned, wondering about the logistics of it, I guess, like, how would that be considered truancy?
If one has not complied with the homeschooling law, or hasn't given their notification or whatever, then one would not fall under the safe harbor given by the homeschooling law, and therefore would be subject to the truancy laws.
Which,
Actually makes a good deal of sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because what we were thinking at first,
No, I just had a question, because I remember at that meeting, there was some discussion of if it was educational neglect, and we
Yeah.
couldn't quite
We
see,
can-
or we didn't have access to how many were only educational neglect, if I'm, am I
Yeah.
remembering this correctly?
Yeah.
So are these, if it's only educational neglect,
Yes.
it's referred?
We did see a breakdown of
If it's
cases
both,
as to which
will it
were.
go to both?
We did see a breakdown that the commissioner had, and I don't remember if it came before or after that meeting, as to what percentage of them were solely educational neglect. So I do remember seeing those figures. I do not currently have them in my hands.
But is it only the ones that are solely educational neglect? So if it's
That will be
educational and,
Yeah.
or is
If-
it,
If there are other issues besides educational neglect, they clearly would not come under the Department of Education.
it would only go to DC?
But would the educational neglect be separated out and come to the DOE, and the
That's what I'm
other
wondering.
issues go to DCYF?
I think that what we determined was the major increase was due to cases that came to DOE. People called DOE because they had some issue about, I'm not educating these kids, what should I do? And DOE would say, I don't have any jurisdiction, go call GCYF.
I think that was the case in some of them, but in others, it was coming from outside, you know,
Third parties.
third parties that were going straight to DCYF and not going to the DOE at all, and I'm wondering if those cases will be kicked back here.
We did not have a resolution to that problem in our meeting.
that's something that, if there's a legislative committee that's, looking at this whole DCYF question right now.
Right.
And that needs to be addressed through them.
Right.
Because what needs to happen here is either a change in the DCYF rules, which, we don't have any jurisdiction over that, or an agreement between the departments, like what we had, until 2012, there was an agreement with DCYF and the Department of Education that if DCYF received a complaint that was a complaint of educational neglect and didn't have other